So we're finally in the part of winter that I hate because you slow down and it's cold and miserable and it sucks, and my workshop is just not fun because everything's frozen to the ground. But I've recently gotten or I'm starting to get the shell of the workshop mostly sealed up to where hopefully if I have fire in here, well, if I have a heat source, hopefully the heat won't just blow away. So, oh, another good thing, my neighbor had like 2 trees fall down and he wants me to get rid of the wood, so we have plenty of firewood. I think that we can take this core, this combustion chamber and heat exchanger from the old furnace in our house that blew up, and we can turn that into a nice wood burning stove. So for now, the openings in the front will be good enough to throw some wood in there, but later on when I cut a big thing in the front, have a nice door, but I just want it to work. I don't need to have it fancy right now. We can always work on that later. The main issue now is to go from this output to the heat exchanger to one of these pipes. But I think what I can do is I can take some of this metal sheeting or shelving and cut it up and make a triangular box. It's not a box, a triangle, and have flat there, and have this coming out the top. And of course weld that up, I'm a welder, and we'll see how that works. But yeah, this heat exchanger is really awesome because, like, just look at that. Isn't that so cool? All the air is going to come through there, and look at all that surface area. I just got to use it for this because I bet this will be pretty efficient. Motherfucker. Now I have this piece of galvanized metal, and I do not believe that this part of the furnace should get flames hot enough to really affect the zinc coating on here. It's not like I'm welding, you know, so. I just realized I might be able to go without welding from now on, because I have that'll fit in that metal. And instead of me welding all of these holes and cracks, which I can guarantee you I'm just going to blow a hole through it and make a big mess, why don't I just get some clay, because clay doesn't burn, and then put some wet clay on all the cracks so that it hardens around the top. I'll do the same. So I'll have some very thick hardened clay packed around it, but then I can always easily open it up to clean it because it's just clay. I mean, earthen ovens or whatever used to be made of clay all the time, so I wonder if I can just do that. At the very least, I can save a lot of welding wire by just putting a bunch of clay at the bottom of the thing here, because, yeah, that'd be good. There's still some insulation inside of there, but I don't know if that's asbestos or not. I guess once it gets the flow going, then it just keeps going. Well, ground's frozen. I've decided that I should just go ahead and add a door to it because I really just need to have the ability to put big bits of wood in there. So we're going to have this hinge on there, and this river tie plate right there. I thought about going horizontally, but going vertical with this would allow me to scoop out the ash and also pile it high without having to really get around too much. Whereas horizontal wouldn't really add all that much. But that way, it should add quite a bit. Because I realized that it took like 5 minutes to put wood into it, and just a small wood. And it's very difficult to keep this thing burning with those two small holes. So I'm going to flip it around where those two small holes are the air intake, and I could possibly cap those off or put a little like bellows thing or whatever it's called, so I can limit how much air goes through there. There's a lot of oxide, weird. I cannot believe that worked. Huh. Oh, wait. Check that out. Much better. Much, much better. Does work. Whatever. I really want to fix this wobbliness we have there, so that might help. Oh, almost. Oh, look at that. Oh. That's going to need a lot of repairs. It might be easier just to cut the whole back end off and weld a new piece of metal on. If I only had a piece of metal for it. How about that? Kind of fixes the problem, and then that'll be sucking air in. I really like this clay. This is the clay that I got from the Red Rooster Inn, and it's really nice and tough. Oh, weird. It really deteriorates. It's very nice and sticky, but has some issues with... Oh, that's a rock. I was trying to break down a rock. What I should have done is I should have broken this up into powder, and I bet that would have mixed better. All right, let's try that again. I basically used a hammer as a mortar and pestle. Okay. So there's a spot here that could use it. Let's see. There's a few little holes here. I'll plug those up first. So the clay might have gotten better if I had a better consistency, if I would have ground it to a finer powder, and if I would have used like a tool, like a popsicle stick or something to help flatten it out. Probably would have used a lot less clay. But I think it's good enough. And I squeeze a little bit throughout the outside, so hopefully whenever it dries, it'll kind of get stuck around that, almost like a rivet. This really makes me want to make an earthen oven, or whatever the term is. An oven made out of clay and dirt and sand and straw. So in conclusion, I did several tests and I'm very pleased with the results of this. As for the design, I would have maybe thought about actually making a grate to have in here so I can cook in there, because this turned out really good for, like, once I have the coals, it's gonna be really great to like bake something in there. Now, the workshop it doesn't have insulation, and it has many sections, like big sections where wind can just blow in. And so this, under normal operation, does not heat up the workshop, but it should, because I should have the insulation in the workshop. So I guess what I'm saying is, the workshop that I currently have is not a good test bed for this furnace. But that being said, it does a great job of heating up the loft, even whenever it has all those holes open. So I think that this thing, given the circumstances, in spite of the circumstances, is doing a wonderful job of heating this place up. Without adding that clay, I don't have to worry too much about the sealant around anything, and the suction on the stove pipe is enough to pull all the air in, all the inlets, so no smoke comes out. However, as soon as I open it up, even a little bit, smoke starts pouring out the back. But whenever I added the clay on all like the little pieces, which the clay did crack in some places, but overall it seems to be helping a lot, because now I can have it open that much and no smoke comes out, and the fire is bigger. So obviously, because of adding the clay, the suction has increased, and so now it can actually handle like making all of this surface area and in the back and all the other little holes that it has be sucked in instead of letting some come out. And plus, it seems like once I have that, now whenever I have the door open to put fuel in there, it actually doesn't smoke nearly as much, although it doesn't smoke all that much in general. And now, I did try this, like I tried to overpower power this furnace, stove, whatever it's called. I took a lot of very small, thin pieces of wood that had a lot of surface area and could all burn very quickly, and they all burned in like 20 minutes. Stacked it all up, and I noticed that it was able to heat up this workshop. Despite, I guess that's the word. It's funny how sometimes, like, you can't tell if a word is a word or not. Your brain fails you. But anyway, in spite of the fact that we have the holes, no insulation, and a huge hole like that big of a piece I forgot to put up in the wall up there, it was able to turn this into sweater weather. And it's still sweater weather in here, even though outside it's well below freezing. Whenever I had it turned up to the maximum, though, it did have some problems. It did not have a good enough capacity to deal with all of the smoke. So smoke started billowing out the back a little bit. That's unfortunate. Although that might have to do with the cap that I put on the chimney, the stove pipe. It's a bit beat up, and so it does constrict the smoke coming out a bit. So if I remove that, then it might actually be better. But either way, when I turn it up to maximum, the chamber itself was able to funnel all of it and hold it fine. And the bricks, the fire bricks worked great. But if I wanted to have it that hot, then I would definitely need to modify the exhaust route so that it can have, well, it doesn't get so bottlenecked, I guess. But that being said, that's obviously way too hot for this anyway, because it almost seemed like it started glowing red, which is not that good. But most of all, it got really, really hot around it. Like if I was sitting here, I would probably burn when it was on maximum. And worst of all, I accidentally spilled some water and it started boiling on the wood. So of course, if the water on top of this wood is boiling, then the wood itself is getting quite hot. And this has basically turned into a lumber yard to hold all the wood that will hopefully be the walls of the workshop and the insulation of the workshop. So I'm very happy with this. It didn't melt or anything, and it was able to hold all the flames. No flames were coming out of it or whatever, but a little bit of smoke came out, and it was a bit too powerful for the very close proximity I have. But right now, with this, like, I have like a foot perimeter of almost no burnable thing, except for right here, like 4 inches. But there's the bricks there, so its bottom part doesn't get too hot. This is just mostly meant to be so I can come down and keep my hands up over it. Now as for like the convection or whatever of the heated air through the heat exchanger, that worked really well. Oh yeah, so this furnace core thing, the combustion chamber and heat exchanger, came from like a 1970s Singer furnace, just FYI. So Singer did a really good job of designing this. Because if at full power, which I would say that what I went to today was a bit over full power. That's something I'm not so comfortable with, because like the metal started creaking, crunching, and it's like, that's too much thermal expansion for me. And I'd rather not have the outsides get red hot if I don't have to. But the air coming through this was so fast that it would like blow my hair a little bit. At least it felt like that. I could feel like it felt like a wind. Whereas I know some furnaces, wood stoves, require like a fan to blow the air, but this worked really well, and I'm very happy with this. And whenever I had it closed, once again, I could be up here, and if it wasn't burning my face, because it's pretty hot, and I wouldn't smell any smoke. So of course, there's not any like enough cracks to really matter, or oh, that's actually nice and cool. And if it was hot, the suction of the stovepipe was enough to suck anything through any cracks instead of letting smoke get out. Now, one good thing is whenever I went up to the top there, I could definitely feel the hot air like blowing in my face even up there. And you can even see the snow on the clear roof is already starting to melt away. And that side, when it was on its full blast, it sounded like rain on the outside because of how fast the snow on the metal side of the roof was melting. So that's a lot of power. And this design was good enough that whenever I stood on the loft, sometimes I'd even feel like a gust of hot air blow me in the face over there. So that was really good. And the loft is like 10 feet up also. It's the same height almost. But it's a good like 16 feet away, and that's pretty good. So in conclusion, I'm very happy with the design of this, mostly because I didn't have to really design it. And so if you are working on building a wood furnace or stove, I would seriously recommend trying to find something that's already made, such as that. And, oh, another thing, a design detail. On top of the heat exchanger, it does such a good job of exchanging the heat that it's not like a stove top. And so I do not think that it would be hot enough to really cook on top. Although you could definitely simmer some, or slowly cook some soup up there. But I don't think that'll be a very good idea. So I would recommend, if you can, make plenty of space inside where you can put like a crock pot or a Dutch oven or whatever. A sealed cast iron thing. And you cook food in there, because that would be really good. I'm very confident that whenever I get larger pieces of wood in there, it'll do a very good job of keeping a consistent, steady amount of heat. And I think that is more than big enough for this workshop. The only reason I wanted to kind of overbuild it is because I eventually want to also use it for my forge, for blacksmithing, so I can melt metal and things in there. So I wanted to go with something kind of large, but I totally agree that for this 15-foot by 28-foot workshop, I probably did not need such a large furnace, but I had it, and it lends itself so well to that. Look at it, it's so cute. I love it. It'll also probably burn the place down, but whatever. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and thank you very much for watching. See ya.